Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
This is Stephen L. Newman, and I graduated from the University of Southern California as a certified public accountant. I initially represented talent and production companies in a number of major motion pictures, the largest of which was Papillon, but you're probably too young to remember that. More recently, over the last 20 years, I've concentrated on representing foreign interests and U.S. citizens in well-publicized controversies with various taxing authorities. So if there was a highly publicized case in California, I was probably involved in that. I've been married for 54 years, have 5 children and 7 grandchildren, and my wife and I reside in Laguna Beach, California. My second published novel is called The Newman Cave 12 Manuscript, and involves a young archaeologist, Samantha James, who discovers a series of copper plates in the Judean desert, predate the Dead Sea Scrolls by over 1,000 years. This startling discovery leads James on a path filled with treachery and betrayal, and raises the possibility that the very core of the Judeo-Christian religion may be a well-conceived masquerade. James lives to tell that where there is visibility, there is justice. Or in actuality, our Lord God is not what we have been led to believe. I'm currently working on a sequel called The Newman Cave Chronicles. I'm referring to chapter 3 now. Although she knew it was foolish, Samantha entered the cave alone. She wanted to get a head start. Her curiosity was unconfined. She carried a large backpack with food, supplies, and lighting just in case. She remembered the cave's interior and most of the meandering tunnels from her earlier visit. Samantha decided to explore the Northwest Tunnel, for she and Gutfeld had spent very little time in this sector in 2017. The Northwest Tunnel was narrow and marked with numerous twists and turns. In 2017, they had discovered that this tunnel was barren of treasure. It was 11 in the morning, and Samantha wanted to be out of the cave by 2 p.m. She picked up her step in order to cover as much ground as possible. Suddenly, she took a quick turn and felt herself falling into a crevice. She felt her fingernails digging into the walls, but the fall was inevitable. Backpack helped break her fall, but she lost consciousness when she hit the bottom. Samantha woke amidst darkness hours later. She was a mass of bumps, scratches, and blood, but a quick inventory revealed only a broken leg and a severely sprained right arm. Possibly a concussion, but she felt as though she was coherent. The pain was excruciating. She began to call out for help, but realized this was absurd. She knew there was no one here and blurted out loud, "There was no one here. I'm alone. I'm alone." The dig team wouldn't be there for 3 days. Samantha hoped her missed dinner with Dr. Elzeben tomorrow night would raise sufficient suspicion. Samantha found one of her fluorescent lights had survived the fall. This would provide a moderate amount of incandescence for at least 6 hours. The flashlight attached to her hip would give an additional hour or 2. She treasured these items, for she was frightened by dark, enclosed spaces. Flashlight in hand, Samantha began to separate the remaining items in her backpack. A cell phone that was useless in the caves, traces of candy and power bars, a canteen, a jacket, and thank God, her reader. The pain in her arm and leg was inescapable, but with her reader, suffering could become optional. She tried to get comfortable by elevating her broken leg and badly bruised arm. Hydrate yourself, she screamed. The last thing you need to do is go into shock. Samantha took a couple of bites of the shattered Hershey bar. Backing up against the wall, she saw skeletal remains with a right hand tightly gripping tarnished plates. Samantha carefully removed the plates from the right hand and held her breath as she looked at them. They appeared to be 7 small metallic plates in the form of a manuscript, maybe copper. Reaching for her cell phone, she was extremely careful not to cause damage to the metallic-like sheets. The review of the plates was the province of someone with a higher pay grade than her. She thought, finally, I may have found something of archaeological value, and here I am in this goddamn hole in the ground. Samantha turned off the flashlight and fitfully slept on and off. She awoke in a burst of panic, screaming, "You had better hurry. My leg is swelling, and I don't want to be a one-legged archaeologist." She had consumed all of her candy and just a mouthful of water left. The last glimmer of fluorescent light had faded yesterday. She was tired, cold, in the dark, and in pain. In a dreamlike state, Samantha thought she heard voices. "I'm down here. I'm down here, goddammit. I'm down here," she screamed. Then she heard Dr. Elzeman's voice.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited you guys are joining us today. We have an amazing guest, and we're going to get started. Hello, Mr. Steve. How are you today?
Fine. How about you? Thank you for having me on.
It is such a pleasure to have you. I am so thrilled you're here. And we're going to jump in right into this book because I have tons of questions and I just want to get started. First of all, let's talk a little bit about where this story came from. What made you decide to write it?
Well, actually, it just popped into my head, and I can't give you much information about the character, the reason that it was in my head, because it'll give the story away. I like to use in my books historical facts and then add a twist to it.
So tell us then, what is the genre of this book?
It is fiction with a bit of historical background.
Historical fiction has become very, very popular, so it's kind of exciting. But you're actually taking history facts and adding into the story, which is even more interesting. How long have you been writing? Tell us a little bit about your background in writing.
Yeah, I have always written, even when I was a child. And as I went to the University of Southern California, and I think I'd written my first short story, and it was actually received by the New Yorker. The problem was, Ms. Gomez, that you know what they paid me? A penny a word.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So my wife and I decided we had better find another profession, and that's why I ended up a CPA.
I can understand that.
Yeah, because with 5 children and 5 college tuitions, penny a word would be an eternity.
I have a feeling not many people will actually get fed at that cost. So, yes, you are correct. So, there is a huge jump between being an accountant and a writer. How was that transition?
During the course of being an accountant, I eventually ended up with concentrating on representing foreign interests, Chinese, Russian, UK, Australian, and US citizens in well-publicized controversies with very taxing authorities, principally the IRS. So during the course of that representation, I would be writing briefs and responses every day. And it may be as long as 8 to 12 hours a day. So I just looked over, instead of writing briefs, I decided on writing fiction.
I like it. It's also a form of storytelling. How long did it take you to write this book?
Gosh, this is my second one. I think it was a little bit easier, but I would imagine probably probably a year.
What was the hardest part about writing it?
Connecting all of the pieces because there were several plots and several people in within those plots. So the connection was the most difficult, but I think I've been remotely successful.
I think you have done a great job, so that is always exciting. You wrote this story from the perspective of a female. Is she the main character?
Yes, is a young archaeologist.
What made you decide to do a female instead of a male main character?
Gosh, she just fit in because she was intelligent and was a respected geologist, and she had a mind of her own. So I decided, let's use Samantha as the main character.
Those are great qualities for main characters. I'm absolutely loving it. So, are you making this a standalone or are you thinking of making this a series?
This is the first one, and I'm currently writing a sequel called The Qumran Chronicles as we speak, and it should be done in 4 or 5 months.
That is pretty awesome. What made you decide to continue with the story?
I guess it was just one day that I said, I'm tired of writing briefs. And then I retired, and we have a lovely little place on the beach in Laguna. And I really started like as I was driving my wife nuts.
Hey, that's always a good reason to get busy so people in your lives don't go crazy. I love it. During your writing process, what are some of the things you have learned?
It is a hard job. There are days that I would sit down, and I'm old school. I get an 8.5 by 11 and a pencil, and I write it down. There would be days that I would sit there and not produce a single word. And then next day, I get half a chapter. So it's a difficult profession.
It is indeed. And I'm so excited that you continue to persevere during all those different stages. What kept you going?
Let's see, as I got into it, the concept became more enchanting to me, and that pushed me along. And then furthermore, I could shut the door and not drive my wife crazy.
Did you talk to her a lot about this book while you were writing, or she said, just finish the book and we'll talk later?
Oh, no, no, no. We would talk about it occasionally, but she served, along with my principal editor, she served editorial capacity. But she's very kind and would tell me, sweetheart, I don't think this belongs here. How about? And then I would follow, and, you're right about that, I would say.
It is awesome to have somebody in the house that wants to hear the story, help you edit it, and give you a sounding board.
Exactly. Right.
Awesome. So tell me, if you can give an up and coming author an advice about this process, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, first of all, it's a difficult job, but what you've got to do is to start. Either pick up a pencil or you go to your screen and just start with the first word, and eventually you'll have the first sentence, and then you might have the first paragraph, then you might have the first chapter. But you gotta have the wherewithal to start. Everybody has an idea, but you've got to start.
That is such an amazing advice because sometimes we talk about writing and never actually get going. So, absolutely awesome. Where can they learn more about you? Where can they find the book?
Gabby, you have to help me with this.
Yes, thank you, Steve. This is Gabby from Steve's Publishing Company. We're here to support him. We have had a great time working with him. And Mr. Steve has an active website called StephenLNewman.com where you can find this book and as well as his previous works, as well as connect with him on Facebook. He has a Facebook page, Mr. Author Stephen L. Newman, where you can have direct links to the Qumran Cave book on Amazon. And it is also currently an ebook, audiobook, and paperback version. So there is a version for everybody in their desired version.
Ooh, awesome. Thank you, Madam, for giving us that information. Thank you, Mr. Steve. So before you leave us, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm prepared. How about that?
You got this. I promise. Here's the first one. Coffee or tea?
Neither. Because, let me just give you a little preference. I think my last cup of coffee was 30 years ago. I'm kind of a high profile type person, and my wife said 30 years ago, you got to stop drinking the coffee because I hate shooting you off the ceiling every day.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Yes. Okay. No caffeine for you. Check. Here is your next one. Do you prefer ebooks or print?
See, I read every day, but I mostly use my reader.
That works. We will do ebook for that. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Since I've been retired, I stay up later and I sleep later.
We will put you as night owl. Check. Mr. Steve, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Let's see. Do you have a winning lottery ticket for me?
Oh, I wish. I will be sending you the numbers right now.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Ms. Gomez. And once again, thank you for having me on. Is there anything else you need for me?
No, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It has been a pleasure. To our listeners, go ahead, check out the book, check out Mr. Stephen's website, join the amazing journey that he's going through. Thank you so much for listening to us. We'll be back with another amazing author. And if you're interested in supporting the podcast, go ahead and join the Patreon community. Bye, everyone.